Do you want to be at the next big game or concert? We're giving away tickets to the Outlaw Music Festival, Santana, Guns N' Roses, Chris Stapleton, and plenty more. You can enter today, KFAN.com, keyword contest.
Yeah, I was glad that it continued on. Do you want to go to the next big game? Or because I don't know when the next big game is, but plenty of music over the course of the summer and some awesome venues, a new one down in Shakopee. Big names coming to Minnesota. Parker Fox is in studio at Parker Fox 24 via X. It's a two-topic Monday for you. Would you rather, Parker, talk about the Tottenham Spurs trying to avoid relegation in Premier League, or would you rather talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves ending their season with a thud on Friday night?
That's,
actually, the way I set that up, it's probably the Spurs.
It's probably the Spurs.
There's more optimism with Spurs right now.
Yeah, hopefully we can...
Just 1 point over the final two?
One point needed in the last two games, which is very
Watch out for Everton. Watch out for Everton.
Well, I know, but no, it was a good weekend in terms of for Spurs able to draw that game, but not a good weekend for our two professional teams local here, Nordo, and it stinks to go out the way they did, but now you got to evaluate what's next. And I've seen a lot of rumblings via social media is what direction we got to go. I mean, I don't know what that is yet, but I think there is going to be big changes for our Howl. Not sure there's going to be as many changes for the Wild. I think they're in a good position, right? You get Ack in that game, you get Brodeen, and it's probably a different series. So I'm excited for this offseason to see what both teams do. And I think we're going to see a lot more movement on the Howl side than we do on the Wild side.
Yeah, I think that there is going to be a bigger sea change, and frankly, just given the smaller roster and how every player kind of means more from a usage perspective and things, I think there'll be more stark changes. Yeah, maybe a shocking change. Yeah, in fact, we could say that. But both decision makers, whether it's Tim in Minneapolis or Billy in St. Paul, they might be taking some big swings this summer. Yeah, and I hate to look at it that way, but it's fun when our teams are in it. Yes. In the summer months, right? And now I'd prefer they were in it as in potentially playing games this week against Oklahoma City. What a juggernaut series that's going to be. And we'll get into that. But I'd prefer that. But the secondary aspect of it is when I'm watching the NHL draft and it's some cat from Finland that I've never heard of. I want to know more about him. Or it's the trade or free agency, I should say, and the free agent bonanza that takes place there. Feels like both our teams are going to be in it. Were you at the game on Friday night?
I was not. I was in South Dakota for a buddy of mine's wedding. So yeah, and it was really hard to not go to that game, right? But you got a buddy, you're in his wedding, you got to celebrate that. You know what I mean? So we watched from a distance. We had the the groom's dinner on Friday night, and then we sat together as a big group of guys and watched the game. And it was just like, they don't start off the way you want it to, and the whole night you're just like, when are they gonna make their run? When are they gonna make their run? And it's like, they would creep and then they would fade, and they would creep and then they would fade. And I think that's kind of a testament to what this Timberwolves team was this year. Like, they would creep and then they would fade, whether that fade was an injury or whether that fade was just not, living up to what their potential could be. And we can talk about, how bad Julius Randle was, but it just was, it was a series that this team needed to be perfect, and they weren't close to perfect. Right. And I think that regression of the mean, right? You're always going to have that when it comes to a series. That's why you play a series. That's why you play 7 games, and you don't just go out and play one. Because if we go out and play one, we beat them game 1 in San Antonio, and then boom, you're on to the next. So, give San Antonio a lot of credit. But I think, if you're Tim Conley, if you're Chris Finch, if you're, this staff moving forward into the offseason, you have to look at where you're at, and you have to say, San Antonio, man, they got 5 or 6 guys under 25 years old, and they have a fantastic core moving forward. Oklahoma City, they got the 2-time MVP now. Congrats to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And they got some fantastic pieces surrounding him. And we're not to that level of Western Conference Finals that we were 2 years ago. And how do you get back there? I don't know the answer to that. There's some awesome free agents. There's a lot of trade rumors with guys like John Morant and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So we're going to find out together. And I think it's going to be a really fun offseason. And I think this Wolves team needs to look different if they want to compete for championships moving forward.
When we're in the heart of Abs and Wild, and we're in the heart of Spurs and Wolves, I think we forget how we got there. And what I mean by that is the perspective of, you coming in studio on a weekly basis and we're lamenting some Saturday matinee snoozer at Target Center. We just don't understand why our favorite team can't get up for the weekend matinees. Or they lose a tough midweek night game to Orlando. And by the way, in hindsight now, Orlando, that's kind of a unit. And they didn't get out. I know
like
that.
Them moving forward.
But that's a good team on the come. But,
or a stinker against Brooklyn after you win a couple in a row. Exactly.
And that's an atopic example. But then when we're in the heat of the series, it's like, why is it that Jaden is getting in foul trouble in the first half of every game? Mm-hmm. Why is Randall taking bad shots here, there, and everywhere? Why is Rudy completely mitigated? He's just completely eliminated from the productivity conversation altogether. We kind of forget in the heat that the talkers that I wrote out in note form over the course of this series, these were talkers that we've discussed with you. Yeah. These are talkers we've discussed throughout weeks and weeks and weeks of the season. And with the Wild, it was going to be they need to stay healthy. They weren't. And they went up against the best team in hockey. Yeah. Didn't play out right. Our favorite basketball team, man, if they could just be more consistent and less moody and find a way to work around the lack of a point guard, they'd be something. Yeah. Well, they did not fix any of that, and they're out. So it's like we forget the perspective of really, I think the Wolves told us early what this thing was going to look like in the biggest spots. We knew early when there were health issues on the back end of the season with the Wild that it was going to be a hill to climb. Mm-hmm. But we kind of forget that in the heat and the battle because we're fans and we want our teams to win. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. And I think it's something where you kind of identify it, right? And that's why they made the move to go and get a guy like Ayo Dosunmu, right? Like you try out Rob Dillingham for a year and a half and you finally make a decision. Okay, Rob's not going to be the guy for that spot. Where do we go with this? And how do we package him to get somebody who can crack our rotation? And I think it was a great move by Tim Connelly to go and get a guy like Ayo.
I like Ayo.
Yeah, I do too. And he's a free agent as well this upcoming year. So it's going to be, probably up to $10 million to keep him around. So that's another name. And I tweeted out the other day. I was like, who on this Wolves team do you need to see back in a Timberwolves uniform this upcoming year? And besides the name Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, and Naz Reid, and obviously Yohan Berenger because he's young, maybe Ayo Dosunmu. But besides that, I don't know if there's really, a laundry list of guys that I'm really needing to be around. So, but no, like I was mentioning, I think you identify it early in the season and said, okay, we're not going to be a Western Conference Finals team with this team that we have right now. Who do we go and get? And you get a guy like Ayo, and I thought he was great. Played in 24 games for this Timberwolves team, and during the regular season had 9 starts and averaged about 15 points a game. So he's a guy that you look at and you say, we're moving forward. Is it a point guard? Is it a dual guard? There's no Dante DiVincenzo next year until at least the All-Star break. And, that's kind of wishful thinking. So what direction do you move forward? And Dante's a guy who played in all 82 and started all 82. And having a guy that can do that it's rare in this day and age. It's really rare air. Besides Mikal Bridges, there's not a lot of other guys out there that do it. So, there's going to need to be some soul searching from, a perspective of what do we want this roster construct to look like, and how do we go back to a place where I think 2 years ago was probably the most confident we could say we were as a team, right? That first Western Conference Finals for us. So where do you go to look like that again? Because I mentioned it, in the opening, but what San Antonio looks like right now and what Oklahoma City looks like, that's scary in the West.
Well, I'm curious. So, like Tim Connelly just can't ship it in and just mail it in and go, it's Spurs and OKC. It's potentially their league.
Yes.
Moving forward. Yes. And that's with the Cavs crushed Detroit. There are some good teams in the East, but what we're looking at, it feels like this is the NBA Finals. Now watch, Cat's hoisting to Larry O'Brien in a few weeks.
I would love that for him, man.
Oh, it'd be great. Yeah. And Brunson's a good player. Yes. Josh Hart is kind of sneakily like one of my favorite players in the league.
Yeah.
Because he's made a career of 5 points, 15 rebounds, 11 assists, and a couple of steals.
Oh, yeah. And he'll draw a charge, too.
He works as hard as anybody in the NBA.
For sure.
But how much when you're in a spot, this is a super dumb question, but I'm just picturing it, just thinking about it specifically with the Wolves.
Yeah.
How do teams like San Antonio and OKC impact what we do? Like, what are we attacking? Are we attacking the guard brilliance of an SGA.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I think OKC is probably the more well-rounded team
For
of
sure.
the two.
Yeah.
Or am I attacking the unicorn in Wemby?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious how he kind of parses out that, where it's like, I do this, and a Baron J.
Yeah.
Maybe the young cat with experience plays better against Wemby in that series.
Yeah.
But in OKC, here's how I got to attack the MVP. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just curious how, there's a lot of work ahead for Tim Connolly and basically every other GM not in those two cities.
But I think Wemby's going to be an MVP one day as well. And I think, a lot of people would probably agree with that statement. Like, that's not a far off statement. Yeah. So you have to have a guy like that. And we do. We have Anthony Edwards. He's, a borderline MVP. Do I think he's going to be an MVP where he sits right now? No, he's got to fix up a lot of his game. He's got to continue to lead the way he's always led, with his actions. But I think it's something where he needs to get those assist numbers up. He needs to be a guy that creates offense for others if he wants to be an MVP. And that's just what, the voting has gone to. It's gone to the triple double was created by guys like Russell Westbrook and James Harden as of late. And, it's really valued. And Anthony has to rebound better, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And then he's got to find ways to create more offense. And is that being a point guard a little bit more? Maybe, but I think, look at championship teams. Look at the finals last year. They had two elite point guards in Tyrese Halliburton and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And not only do they score well, but something that Shai does so well that we didn't see Anthony Edwards do in this Spurs series is create that double team and then make the right play. Now, this Wolves team couldn't shoot for, anything. They couldn't hit the backside of a barn. They couldn't hit water if they were sitting in a boat and throwing it into the ocean. So, that doesn't help Anthony Edwards from the assist numbers, but he's got to find ways to create for others better. And I think,
what if he's just a shooting guard?
He might be.
What if he's just the best number two in this next generation of NBA players?
And I think that's where I'm going to, Nordo. And I've always held that out where it's like, I want to have this elite point guard in Minnesota, and I think Anthony Edwards can do it. And then he gets put in that role, and it's just like, it's not what you would hope it was. But also look at Dante at the beginning of the season. Like, Dante's been a 2 his whole life, and we transitioned him into that 1 role a little bit. It was ugly early for Dante DiVincenzo from the 1 spot. And then he got used to it, and then you get a guy like Ayo who helps out as well. But he might just be a 2. And if that's the case, it's either Tim Conley or somebody in that front office has to notice that and find a way to go. Because, Mike Conley's great from the 15 minutes he could give you this year, but that's dwindling as the years go on. Who knows if Mike's going to be around next year or in the year's future? So what do you do from the point guard perspective? Because I think it's the most important position in the NBA. I really do. And you look at these great championships teams, they usually have a pretty good point guard. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like I mentioned, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson. So the guys that are around, and I think the Spurs team's different, right? They do it by committee. But I think if you're moving forward, you got to have a serviceable point guard. And I think that's something that we really missed in the San Antonio series.
Well, first of all, yes, the Spurs are unique. Wemby is unique unto himself, but I would put De'Aaron Fox in that spot.
Totally.
Like, when you think about in this, watch out, stupid opinions galore coming from me. This is Normalcy, 9 to noon, Nordo in for PA. So Dylan Harper looks like he's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Stephon Castle is going to be a thing.
Yes.
Devin Vassell. Not a superstar, but my goodness,
right there.
When they need triples, so they're just deep in that spot. They got 40 guards on the team.
Yeah.
But having De'Aaron Fox and even an old head like Harrison Barnes, who has been there and done that as a role player off the bench, who cares what he's doing on the court? Usually either they're up by 30 or somebody's in bad foul trouble if you're relying on him. But having guys like that, I think matters, specifically in the guard spot with De'Aaron Fox. So just going out and getting a Dillingham, however, and he didn't develop right, and then it's time to move on.
Not the answer.
Getting an Ayo does not appear to be an answer on the high end. Does it have to be veteran field general? Does it have to be uber talented? Because whether it's the text line, it's conversations that I've had with you and others on air or off air. There is a massive question about the organization and the maturity of this team, specifically on the court. And if he is just going to be one of the best 2s ever, man, we need a guy that is locked up tight at the point that because it's so important, running the entire flow of the offense, the philosophy of what Finch needs executed on the court.
Yeah.
Man, we need a massive, mountainous upgrade at that spot like yesterday.
And I think too, it's a dollar amount, right? If you look at De'Aaron Fox, I wouldn't have believed if you told me this, but he's going to make almost $62 million in the 2029-2030 season. $62 million for De'Aaron Fox. And he's going to be an older guy at that point, too.
That's
but
crazy.
You pay that money because you know what he's going to give you, right? You know that you got younger guards around him that you don't have to pay as much because they're on rookie contracts. You know that you have a freaking Wemby who you aren't paying what you're going to have to pay for him eventually down the line. So right now is a really, really interesting team for this, time for this Spurs team. You're paying a guy in De'Aaron Fox the maximum veteran extension in 2026 to 2029, 4-year, $221 million. So where do the Wolves go with that? Well, we got Rudy that we're paying a lot of money. We got Julius we're paying a lot of money. We got Jaden on a decent contract. Obviously, you're going to have to pay, Ant as his future kind of rolls on too. So, where do you go with that dollar amount when you're locked up? So that's going to be the movement with Rudy Gobert or Julius Randle that we're going to see in this offseason is where do they go? What do they value, Nordo? Well, I don't know. I'm not in Tim Conley's mind, but I would think as he looks at this year, they probably value a guy that's mature because there's a lot of immature moments from this Timberwolves team. They probably value a guy that can get him in an offensive set because you look at the Spurs series, recency bias, a lot of double teams, a lot of blitz of ball screens, not able to get in sets the way they want to get into sets. And then 3 for me, and I think it's just a mature leader. So I don't know if John Morant's the answer for that. He probably isn't because of his antics recently, but he's a guy that is obviously uber talented. James Harden's a free agent, so I don't know, but I do think that maybe even a Tobias Harris, who's a free agent, from just an experience and a veteran leadership perspective. I think there needs to be somebody in this locker room who sets this team straight. LeBron James? What's LeBron doing? He want to come to Minnesota?
He can play point.
He can play the point.
He does everything.
But I think at the end of the day, for me, it's really identifying what didn't go right? And I think the point guard position for me is, you can talk about how Julius Randle was terrible in this series, but ultimately you need a point guard, in my opinion, for the future of this organization if you want to play in Western Conference Finals.
See, I tried to go down that road with Randall. And I was
the Randall road, huh?
Well, I was laughing because I just think that Randall was terrible in this series.
Yeah.
Pretty good postseason last year.
Yeah.
He just fell off a cliff.
It was ridiculous.
And it was unacceptable.
Mm-mm.
But I was kind of explaining, I just felt like he was getting the ball late in the clock. Like he was being put in spots where he can't be the pinnacle of the epitome of Julius Randle at his best. Well, then I get a text as Jared, we get Randle offensively, bad spots and whatnot. But his hustle and defense was horrific as well. He was just awful this series. I get it. I'm wrong. Jared's right. Everyone's right, and I'm wrong. I'm a Randall apologist.
Yeah. Well, I tried to be right there with you, Nordo, and I was like, I know what Julius brings. Right. He's a veteran in this league. He's been he's played for great organizations. He understands the game. Whether that's New York, L.A. He knows what he's doing, and I think that's something for me that was the hard part. And there was one moment specifically, and I think it may be game 3 or 4, and he was guarding a guy in the corner and he helped him. They kicked it out to the corner and he didn't even make an attempt. He just stood there and watched whoever it was line up the 3. And I was like, that's it. Like your effort is gone. You lost it. And I think when you lose it, that's when it's dangerous, right? Is like, you can fake it all you want, but when you officially lost it and people can realize like, this guy doesn't care anymore, then what are you doing out on the court? Well, you're wasting time for your teammates. You're wasting time for yourself. So, and I agree with you with the position, getting him in interesting spots, but that's also that goes back to the point guard thing, right? Is you're getting blitzed, you're getting pressed. Nobody can set up the offense. And then, that's only a 24-second shot clock. And if you're initiating offense at 12, that thing's running down and you're putting the grenade in somebody's hand, as we like to say. And
that's where it felt like hot potato offense, man.
Yeah,
I don't want to be the guy that takes the clanker.
Yeah, I know. Exactly right. And we call that the grenade, right? A couple seconds left, throw it to somebody and they got to get it up. So
good luck.
You
mentioned
Harden's
nervous. A free agent.
Harden, yeah. That's a guy I would love to, although, with the run they made in Cleveland there, getting that, over Detroit.
That's tough, actually.
They're going to probably keep him around.
Well, here's the tough thing for Wolves fans is if we were to get James Harden, that'd be terrific. Not long term, but in a short term bit. The offense would look as good as it possibly. I mean, he's one of the elites.
Yeah.
you'd have to stop complaining about SGA's flopping. Because if you watch Harden's as good as
it.
I think that's his thing. I hope he has a patent.
Yeah.
So every time the NBA finds somebody for flopping, he gets 10% of that money or something. He invented flopping.
He did. He certainly did.
He had one of the most egregious, I forget, it was game 5 or 6 against Detroit, as a matter of fact, late in the game. And it was just the ugliest thing you'll ever see. And, yes, Harden's an option. Harden's an option. You know what I was reminded of as well? Michael Jordan. Not a point guard, Parker.
It's true.
Not a point guard, Parker.
That is true. And you look, you got a guy like Scotty who could bring up the ball for him as well in that point forward position. So Giannis Antetokounmpo, they kind of are alike. So
think about it.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of movements that need to happen, but like I mentioned kind of in the opening, I don't think that the construct of this Timberwolves team is going to look very similar to what it's looked in the past couple of years. There has to be some big changes if they want to compete, because look at what Tim Connelly did. He built this roster to beat the Denver Nuggets. And what did they do? They beat the Denver Nuggets. Yeah. They owned the Denver Nuggets, but it's not the Denver Nuggets that's the cream of the crop anymore. You know, it's not Denver. No. It's OKC and San Antonio. So you got to readjust to say, how can we beat those teams? I don't know. Let's pause. You said something earlier on talking about the makeup of this team. I want to hit you with this around the corner. One more segment with Parker Fox, specific to the Howl. Howl's season is over. Busy summer for Tim Connelly. We're going to continue that conversation next. Brett Blakemore, however, it's just burning a hole in his pocket. He's got some bonus bucks to give away with a keyword.
Been dying to do it. The Fan at BigDeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks for the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword is rich. The keyword rich. KFAN.com. Keyword rich.
You're listening to Eric Nordquist in for Paul Allen on The Fan.
The Fan welcomes some great shows to Ledge Amphitheater this year. Jim Gaffigan, July 19th. John Mulaney, August 22nd. Black Label Society, September 25th. You complete details on all of our upcoming shows on the concert page, KFAN.com. Keyword calendar, KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Jalen Clark's going to dribble it out here. The horn sounds, and that will do it. The second-seeded Spurs, who won 62 games in the regular season, they dispatched the Timberwolves in 6 games, winning Game 6 here at Target Center, 139-109.
Final call from Friday night. Wow, busy break. Parker Fox stays in studio for another segment. Some more Howl-related questions around the corner, but Chad Abbott, program director, he's our house guru and problem solver, people person extraordinaire. We're just like the Wolves sometimes, where either we don't get along, but we try to succeed together, or maybe we like each other, but then we're just a disaster together. It's the Fan, and he's our Finchy / Tim Connelly.
Oh, man.
He hit me with 2 things. First of all, Wild fans. John Hines and Bill Guerin, joint presser today at 1, and we're going to carry that right here on your home for Wild Hockey, The Fan. So, Common Man, Dan Cole, if you're listening, maybe you save your lunch until 1 o'clock, and then you can eat it off air. Just an idea, but I'll let you do your thing, high level, long time as it is. The second thing, apparently wearing wired earbuds is cool again.
So random.
Is that a real thing?
It is. It actually is a real thing. It's coming back, and I think the AirPod generation is dying. And I don't know why it is, but I've seen it. I don't know if...
Is it because every new set is $300?
Yeah, that doesn't help.
As soon as you buy one, it's a countdown to losing one?
You see it from the NBA guys, too, where $300 is... They're not even worried about that, right?
That's a good point, actually.
They're just doing the wires, and the wires back. I think it was Aaron Rodgers who had them in. So I don't know if we're stealing swag from Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's just Abbott trying to keep up on what the swag is.
That is kind of his thing.
You go in his room, you see the whiteboard of all the new slang terms that he's trying to keep up with.
It's not working. No. Guys like you, guys like Max, Brett, the young kids.
For real.
You're giving him all the... No cap. You're giving him all the bits. His delivery, it's lacking.
Sometimes you got to stay in your lane, right?
Well, I guess I got to stay in my lane. I was devastated when the iPhone no longer offered the audio jack.
Yeah.
So then I bought the AirPods.
Yep.
And now we're coming back.
Yep.
And I assume it's the USB plug for the wired. Okay. Well, hey, you learned something. You mentioned big changes this summer, and we're totally aligned, Parker. Minnesota Timberwolves, Tim Connolly got to take some big swings. But you were kind of rattling through some players on the front end of last segment, and it was Ant. We mentioned Ayo, of course. You trade for him at the deadline, and I think he's a part of this team and should be, I should say, for potentially years to come. But then you mentioned Jaden. Mm-hmm. Now, Jaden McDaniels, maybe Ant's best friend. I don't know these things. I haven't asked either one of them. I've never really talked to either one of them. But I've just heard that kind of, the triumvirate, the crew, the squad, if you will, of Ant. It's Jaden McDaniels, and I believe Naz Reid would be part of that.
That's right.
That three-headed buddy attack.
Yep.
Is Jaden untouchable still?
You know what? I think he still is, and I think it's getting closer. We saw him this year shoot the ball really well from three. He was a north of 40% shooter from three. That. And then the postseason came around, and he couldn't shoot the ball to save his life. Didn't make a shot on the road for almost 7 games. So it was just one of those things where, hey, sometimes the ball doesn't fall in, right? But how are you impacting the game in other ways? It's a make or miss league. It comes to the defensive end. And we know Jaden's a great defender, but he had a real tough time keeping guys in front of him this year. I don't know if that was foul trouble situation into the postseason where you're trying to, play defense without fouling. Maybe you're tired. He struggled a little bit. And I think, you look at Jaden's contract and you say to yourself, okay, 5-year, $131 million. We have him until the 2028-29 season. So 3 more seasons, that is. He's going to make 26 next year, then he's going to make 28, then he's going to make 29. I think that's a pretty good contract for a guy. Bad. Yeah, you're not paying him, Julius Randle's making more than him. You're not paying that high 30. You're not paying him into the 40s. He's probably going to get that in his next contract, Nordo, as long as he progresses the way he's progressed. So I think when you look at from a contract perspective, can you keep him around? I think he's a guy numbers-wise that makes sense. Now, when we're talking about Rudy's numbers, when we're talking about Julius's numbers, those are numbers that probably need to be altered a little bit if you're going to get a guy that produces in the playoffs the way Julius and Rudy produced. You can't make that much money and then put the effort, forget about the points and the rebounds, put the effort in the playoffs that they put in. You're getting paid way too much to do that. So I like the number that Jaden's at. I think he's a guy that's still untouchable. And we saw that this year, right? I'm pretty sure, and this is I'm not positive with this, but that Giannis trade in the regular season, they wanted Jaden to be a part of it, and the Wolves said no.
I believe that was true.
I think that was true. So I think Jaden is still an untouchable guy. Yes, he didn't shoot the ball well in the playoffs, but I think he's still a guy that you want in a Wolves uniform next year.
The thing with Jaden, and maybe you hit on the key there and why it was a thing, him having trouble getting in front of players.
Yeah.
And there was trailing. I'm just exhausted by the dumb fouls. Mm-hmm. Now, in a vacuum of this series, I love Jaden McDaniels, and him. I think he learned something, and I hope maybe this summer that we get to see it in the fall. Yeah. Him learning to assert himself, find his shots. If the three's not working, he found something near the free throw line and just these mid-range bits that were working incredibly well at times. But him just slapping Stephon Castle under the rim, and I just picture it's like, what's going on, Jaden?
Yeah.
The head coach probably behind closed doors, he's probably saying it politely or respectfully, we can't have you in foul trouble. Mm-mm. We can't allow you to take the dumb ones, Jaden. Mm-hmm. We understand big spot fourth quarter, you've got 4. You're going to have to go up and try and block that. That's fine. Yeah. Get it. First half, Stephon Castle and these and ones cannot persist, and you with 3 having to sit mid-second quarter every game. But then we just saw it.
Yeah.
And then we saw it again. And we saw it again. And I just, that was really frustrating to me. And I just picture Finch. And Finch has his warts, man. But Finch is sitting there going, hey, guys, I need this, this, and this. He's got his little checklist like you do with your 5 keys on X, right? And they're like, okay, got you, Finchy. Yeah. Finchy. And then they go out and just do none of it.
None of it.
I'd be pulling my hair out if I'm the coach.
And man. I think Jaden, he frustrated himself this playoffs a lot. Like, he was put in those positions where he's guarding really quick, strong guards. Like, I think you got to give Stephon Castle credit. He brought the power to Jaden. He brought the aggression to Jaden. And Jaden was playing on his heels a little bit. So, he gets frustrated. And we've seen that throughout Jaden's career in Minnesota. Like, he'll get an early one, or maybe a shot doesn't go in, and he won't show the emotion on his face, but he's clearly frustrated, and he'll foul somebody 85 feet from the hoop. And it's like, those are the bad fouls, right? Those are the ones you can't have. And then maybe you drive on somebody and he doesn't go to that slow step, and he, charges into somebody, or it's a loose ball foul that just doesn't need to happen. Like, if you clean those up, that gives yourself 1 to 1.5, 2 more fouls throughout a game, and then you're not dealing with all that trouble. So I just think it's a thing that he needs to mature with. I think it's just overall, this Timberwolves team, I think maturation is the word that needs to be really addressed in this offseason.
Could not agree with you more from a maturity standpoint. So big swings this summer. Maybe the answer is we just got to move to the East.
That could be the answer.
Is that the answer?
That could be the answer. We'll see what Seattle's got going on out there, huh?
What do you think about now that we're out? We just get to be spectators. So speaking of James Harden, he and Spida, Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland just ousted the Detroit Pistons in 7. And the Knicks have been on the chill. It is a shot for Cat. It is a shot for my guy, Josh Hart, everybody's guy, Jalen Brunson, et cetera, to battle their way to the finals. It kind of feels like what we're about to see starting tonight with OKC and Spurs.
Yeah.
That is the NBA Finals. What do you look at in a series like this, where it's the well-rounded nature combined with the youth and the unique part of the Spurs?
Well, and I said it even, midway through the Wolves series I still had faith that this Timberwolves team could find a way to beat the Spurs, but ultimately I knew what kind of a series this next, one was going to be with the Thunder and the Spurs. And I think they match up really well from, a guard perspective on Shea, right? There's multiple bodies you can throw at him. He's going to see double teams, and that was very successful against Anthony Edwards. So we're going to see how Shea can play out of those double teams. But I think the Thunder have more kind of depth in that wing position. I think that's why Dante DiVincenzo, missing him was such a big deal. So I think the guard perspective is going to be a real battle. And then you look at the bigs. Wemby is what he is, but they have Hartenstein and Chet. And I think the ability that Chet has to stretch the floor is going to be a real challenge for this Spurs team to defend. I think you probably have to play Wemby on an Isaiah Hartenstein to start the game. So Chet Holmgren really is going to have to be the X factor in that one. I see the Thunder finding a way to get out of that thing in about 6 or 7 games, but it's going to be a heck of a battle, and there's going to be some really awesome games. And then on the other side, I really like this Cavaliers team. Now, they don't have enough pieces at the guard position outside of Donovan and James Harden, but they got Mobley, they got Jared Allen. They play really big inside. They have a really good shooter in Merrill, so there's some pieces there. But I got New York winning that series. I think Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be huge. Jalen Brunson is going to be his normal self, and I think that's going to go 6 or 7 games as well.
Gosh, what if Cat takes down OKC?
That would be great.
That would be very, very cool. The way you were talking about OKC and the Spurs, and earlier I kind of asked you, the best in a conference or the best in the league can kind of dictate what other GMs and decision makers are doing.
Oh, totally.
The way that we attack Denver and the value of a Rudy Gobert moving forward, does this kind of tell you Rudy isn't necessarily a fit for this team trying to take steps with the Spurs and with OKC in particular? I hate to say he's an all-time defensive guy, right?
Yeah.
Maybe his purpose is not best served in this mix with this team.
Yeah, and I think it's something I talked about earlier, right? It's the contract. Rudy's going to make almost $37 million, $36.5 million next year. And if you're making $36.5 million, you're the second highest paid player on a team, right? And that's what Rudy is. He's the second highest paid player behind Anthony Edwards. And we're not getting the production out of him that we need to get. Now, yes, does he impact things defensively at a really high level? Oh, for sure. Does he rebound the ball? Is he good at putback situations? Yes. But there's so many parts of his game that are lacking that it's hard to pay somebody the second highest player on your team when you have that many holes in your game. Yeah. So I think it's going to be, I could see him in a Wolves jersey next year. Like, I could see there's other people and keep Rudy Gobert. But there needs to be changes. And frankly, Rudy might be one of those guys that kind of falls by those changes.
The NBA is different, and I was joking with Chris Hine first hour. It's like I need KPMG to help you figure out bird rights and aprons and various things. Who's going to take that deal? I know it seems
that's the hard part.
When some of these guys get moved, it's expiring contract this and other things again, it'll actually save us money because this is what it does with the tax apron and various things.
Yeah.
But it feels like trying to sell another team on Rudy at this stage, trying to sell another team on Randall. I think you can, but maybe it impacts return given what we just saw this postseason. That seems like some really difficult phone calls transpiring.
Well, there's always recency bias too, right? Like you look at this series, and I'm sure some GMs are like, "Whoa, that's how they produced in these recent series." But then I think you look at it as a whole as like Rudy Gobert. If you're looking for a guy that can really defend for you, he's going to anchor you interiorly. He's been a guy who's been good on both sides of the ball throughout his career. He's a veteran. He brings a lot to a team from a mature standpoint. I think he's a guy that could find value from a couple different teams. And Julius Randle as well. He's been around the league enough. He can stretch the ball to three if you're a team that needs some 3-point shooting. He's strong interiorly. So like there's still value with those guys, right?
You're
now,
right.
Do other teams value them the way that we maybe need them to value so we can get a better guy? I don't know, but that's gonna be the challenge for Tim Connelly this offseason.
Yeah, I love Rudy. His personality just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And by the way, for his age, like, he's still cut out of stone. Like, he takes care of his business.
Yeah, mature approach.
And Randall's great. Like, I love Julius.
Yeah.
It ain't working.
No.
It's not working.
No, it's not.
You're awesome, man. Thanks for coming in studio today. I appreciate it. That's Parker Fox, at Parker Fox 24 via X, weekly Monday guest, 9 to noon, periodically on Wednesday mornings as well. And you heard him. He was, sadly, until Max's jaw's okay, he was kind of howling with homies on his own. But terrific work covering the Wolves, fan lines, and his analysis is terrific. Love Parker for that. Some news is next. Lavelle at 11. It's Nordo in for PA on the Fan.
Minnesota's home for the Western Conference.
Wemby jump hook in the lane, and now the Spurs.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. News du Nord is brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Feeling the felt. Poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. But, of course, the A topic with my favorite spot in Shakopee, Canterbury Park. Live racing is kicking off this Memorial Day weekend. I believe Saturday would be the day. Let me just check the old calendar. This is why they have a website, CanterburyPark.com. The 23rd, I believe, is opening day for Canterbury 2026. Go there, watch, wager, and win. You got Family Day. There'll be all sorts of special events, and that's why you just go to CanterburyPark.com for more info. Where are we headed to first, Brett?
Number 1.
Well, we could talk about the what or the what.
You want to talk about the Spurs?
We could, but I'd probably get in trouble.
1 point. They need 1 point.
1 point
at
in the last
Chelsea,
which we never get points at Chelsea.
Or home v. Everton.
Correct.
It's at 10 a.m., maybe a week from Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, 10 a.m. this Saturday.
Because you play tomorrow at Chelsea.
We do.
Yeah.
2:15.
Yeah,
we could talk about, of course.
Okay.
Hang out with Minneapolis Spurs.
I hope your team doesn't get relegated, because that would be weird for a $1 billion stadium to be playing championship. Or that would be for 90% of the listening audience who couldn't care less about Premier League soccer or soccer in general. They call the second-tier league below the Premier League championship. Mm-hmm. And you're going to miss out on TV money and all that, and you just need West Ham to continue being awful. I mean, technically, you could lose both, and West Ham just loses their last one because they've been hideous.
Yeah.
And life's good.
And we'd stay up.
Okay.
And then hopefully spend some of that $1 billion that they have on players.
It's really embarrassing.
Happy we got it. It definitely is. And it's on the ownership. The Pollads of England, I call them. But we'll talk hockey. The two best words in sports, Game 7, Canadiens in Buffalo. That's today, 6:30. Really, the road teams, we talked about it in the opener, the road teams have been dominating this series, so that would bode well for the Canadiens, but also they just got bodied on their home ice 8-3, and only one of those goals was an empty netter. Got some local angles with the Jason Zucker, with Alex Tuck, Big Rig.
Jordan Greenway.
So you've got that. Also, Buffalo, similar as far as sports misery to here. Obviously, no one can compare to Minneapolis with sports misery, but they're up there with the Bills and 4 straight Super Bowls, yada, yada, versus the Canadiens, who have won a boatload of Stanley Cups in their history. So Canadiens Sabres Game 7 tonight. Your thoughts?
I don't mean to put you on the spot. Have the Buffalo Sabres ever won a Stanley Cup? And I'm scrambling here.
They have not.
They've been
to the finals twice, it seems.
They've been to the finals, so they lost. Most recently, they went to the conference finals and lost in 2007 to Ottawa. All right. Oh, that's a lot of did not qualify via the Wikipedia list of Buffalo Sabres seasons. That's rough. However, see, another thing that we can have in common with the Buffalo Sabres, the last time they went to the Stanley Cup final. Now, we don't have that in common.
No,
with
we
them.
don't.
Sounds nice, as a matter of fact.
It would be fun.
But they lost in 6 to Madonna and the Stars. No!
Gold in the crease.
So Buffalo has to hate Dallas. And you know what? We're going to hate Dallas, too. I don't really hate Dallas, actually, as a matter of fact. Whether it was...
That's blasphemy.
There was weird, media and radio people out in Colorado getting a little after it with our people during the Nuggets series, or I think Kevin Gorg's still responding to Dallas Stars rubes.
He probably is.
I think he is. And that's why I love Gorgie.
The racing doesn't start until this weekend. He's got plenty of time to filter the replies.
Things getting a little volatile. Dig Denver. Dig the people who cover the teams. I dig Dallas. I dig people who cover the teams. We don't need to get mad. We don't have to create a beef. Whose team's better? That's what matters. I'm rooting for Buffalo tonight, and it'd be cool, local angles, etc. But there is a little bit of tugging at the heartstrings where it's like, now in fairness, Montreal would have been the last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup final. That was 93.
I believe that's correct, yes.
So they got a lot on their shoulders to get off that long drought schneid.
Cole Caulfield from just across the border.
Oh, Caulfield. He was a Badger, wasn't he?
He was.
For Hastings or pre-Hastings?
It was pre-Hastings.
Pre-Hastings.
Granado.
Man, Mankato's own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's not from Mankato, I don't think. But Mike Hastings really turned that Wisconsin team around in a hurry, didn't he?
Speaking of blowing it.
Wow.
They had a lead in the national championship, and that evaporated.
Yeah,
anyways.
We laugh at things like that when it includes Wisconsin. Yeah, I think you got to root. I'm not rooting for, no. If it's choosing long-term malaise, I got to stay with my countrymen. So it'll be Go Sabres tonight. Go Sabres tonight. Win Game 7. Love Game 7 and Game 7s. You're right. Buffalo, that trend for them, winning big games on the road, struggling in front of their home fans. Hopefully that goes different tonight in Buffalo. Moves on to face a Carolina Hurricanes team that hasn't played since May 9th. And whoever wins tonight, the Hurricanes won't play until the 21st. 12 days off. Nearly 2 full weeks on the chill for the Hurricanes. The benefits of sweeping your first 2 playoff opponents. Game 1, Vegas Golden Knights and Avs, is Wednesday, where we basically got no time off between Dallas and the Avs series. The Vegas Golden Knights and Avs will get extra 6 days. That's good for them. We're all happy for them. Which brings me to, Wild fans, the season-ending presser for both head coach John Hines and general manager Bill Guerin. They're going to be on the mic at 1 p.m. today, and you're going to get to hear that right here on the Fan. And I know through some sneaky conversations with certain PR people that may or may not be named Aaron Sickman, trying to effort a chance for PA to chat with John Hines later this week as well. So Wild Hockey, your coach and GM on the Fan at 1 p.m.
We're at a crossroads right now on air production meeting. We could A, nail the straddle, or B, keep going to account for the Lavelle 5.
Ooh, that's
your thoughts.
I think we're probably gonna hit one more.
Okay, I think that's the right play.
Number 2.
What's crazy is I'm gonna text him. I'm gonna hit him with a ETA ? I'm not gonna receive a response, and then he's just going to poof, and he's here
magically.
So maybe but he won't show up before I text that. I think that's the rule. What else you got?
Number 2.
The other game, if you want to do programming predicament, you've got the Spurs, not my Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs, against the OKC Thunder. That's at 7:30. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, what could have been for your Timberwolves. You're talking about it with Parker. These are the 2 juggernauts that, unless the Wolves get moved to the East, which I guess is not out of the question, but probably not likely, you're going to have to get through one, if not both of these teams.
Well, So I would rather watch the Wolves get swept in the Western Conference Final than have them peter out in 6 the way that they did to the San Antonio Spurs. But just as sports fans, if you are really into hoops, this is the state of hockey. So I would imagine that of our listenership, that more of you will be watching the Game 7 of Sabres and Canadiens than those of you who are locked in to see Wemby and SGA tonight. However, we are about to get a peek at maybe the next half decade of the Western Conference. And all jokes, let's bring back the Supersonics, kick us into the East. Now we're playing the Bulls, and we're playing the Pistons, and we're playing the Pacers, etc. Should I just name every Eastern Conference team? I probably don't need to. This is what the Western Conference could be for the next half decade. You're going to see that tonight. And that's why I was chatting with Parker, just how the best teams and how they're constructed, how that impacts what other GMs like Tim Connolly are trying to do this summer and beyond. So we knew how good Rudy was in those series with Denver. We beat Denver. Love that. Knocked him out of the playoffs 2 different times. Dig that. Love it. How did he work against Wemby? How did he work a year ago? Let's try to dig back in time into the backs of our brains and remember how he did against SGA a year ago. Not good. So that changes how you view Rudy in those 4 Defensive Player of the Year nods. Similarly with Randall, how does he pair with Rudy? How does that change? Lack of a guard, etc. You have to pragmatically say that we were nowhere freaking close to competing at a high level with OKC this year. DiVincenzo, the injury matters, but just functionally, how we are constructed, it's not enough. And so you're going to watch Game 7. I know I am, but also I think it's an hour later. It's like 7:30, tip-off-ish. Pre-game festivities be damned. You're going to see what the future of the Western Conference looks like. The next 5 years of the West is on the court tonight, at least maybe. The Oklahoma City Thunder have 100 picks. They have picks falling out of their pockets, and they're just hitting on every single one. And the Spurs got Wemby. That wasn't tough to hit on, but what they've done now with some players around him, that's a thing. And wow. So you'll get to see that tonight. I'm going to watch a bit of both.
Number 3.
Yeah, one more quickie and then we'll pause.
Why not? Have you shot the text yet? Is the question.
Oh, I'll do that while you're talking. I'm listening, of course.
So, this happened and finished up yesterday. You heard most of it right here on the Fan.
Aaron Rye has just hit a beautiful birdie putt on 17, and he drains it from 50 feet. Aaron Rye is unstoppable at Aronimink. He is 9 under par.
Yeah, Aaron Rye, your winner of the PGA Championship. I did have this on, and it just felt like the drama, because he was in such an early group, and the last couple of groups just fell off of a cliff where they didn't even end up close to the leaderboard.
Yeah.
So you knew it was him, and you had 2 or 3 groups finishing out after him. It just felt weird. We're in this weird paradox in golf, and this happens every time someone comes out of nowhere and wins, a big tournament or a major.
Yeah.
Where we want someone new. We don't want, you hear it all the time, Scotty wins all the time. We don't want to keep seeing Rory and Scotty. We want someone new. And the second someone new wins, you go, oh, that was boring. We didn't see that one coming. So it's a weird kind of place to be where it's good that someone new won and good for them, but also it felt like it kind of, not a letdown, but just kind of took the drama out of it. Didn't feel like a major because it was someone new. It's a weird thing where you're happy for them, but also it's a little weird at the same time. Does that make any sense?
It does. This might morph into a different conversation, but I just think that there are sports where you need a dynasty, you need an evil empire, you need the standard upon which everyone else is, the standard that everyone else is failing to meet. And so there's an awe factor, there's an entertainment factor. Aaron Rye, and I hope this is correct, I think he's only won twice on the PGA Tour. And so you want to talk about emerging from obscurity.
He wears 2 gloves.
Now, golf's also a sport where you can finish 50th and you're going to be okay. You're going to be all right. You can make a nice little career out of being the 50th best golfer on the PGA circuit. But to that end, I do tend to agree with you that you need Scotty to win and win and win and win until you're just sick of it. So then you can watch somebody beat Scotty in the biggest spot. You can celebrate because somebody met that standard that nobody can meet. You can look at it in other sports. I think people get bored with it more quickly. But the evil empire that became of the New England Patriots, what the Thunder look like they're potentially going to become. In hockey, you get bored. Nobody wanted the Florida Panthers to three-peat.
Patrick Mahomes, even.
In Minnesota, we hate the Yankees, or now we're going to have to probably push some disdain, even though they're in the other league, but going to be tired of the Dodgers winning every year. Like, I think you need that, and it almost forces investment. You start to root for teams to fail until your team succeeds. Then your team becomes the people that the team that everyone hates. I think that's okay for sports. But you're right. I mean, it's simultaneously congratulations, Aaron Rye, but also like, make a putt, John. John Rahm sitting there all day yesterday on the cusp, couldn't do it. Scotty needed to putt better yesterday. At one point, there were like 10 different dudes. Rory, happy you won the Masters twice in a row. Get out of here. I was happy with Rory not contending in the final few holes. So I'm totally with you on that. With that said, that's News to Nord, brought to you by the casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. When we return, Lavelli Neal III is expected to be here. Columnist, Star Tribune, potpourri conversation with Wobble. Next, final hour ahead on The Fan.
It's Eric Nordquist in for Paul Allen on The Fan.
From the 1-8